This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 289.
I program my home computer.
We have a server crash. 404 error. Page not found. Links aren't working. System is crashing. System is crashing. System is crashing.
Your old HTML website. Barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website. Better than it was before. Better. Stronger.
Faster. We have the technology.
Why, hello everybody. This is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events. We have 4 events coming up. WordCamp Zurich, September 13th and 14th. And I was actually tempted on going. My passport is valid again, and I was looking at flights. I could fly to New York. Yeah, there's a small chance I'm going to go. We'll see how that works out. But what's closer is actually WordCamp in New York City, also September 14th and 15th, because Zurich was 13th and 14th, if I didn't say that. And also, let's see, another one coming up here, WordCamp Retreat. Oh, there's a WordCamp Retreat in Sinamoritz. It's in Bulgaria, and I'm going to read this real quick. It says, for English, click here. Okay, so what the site is saying over at WordCamp.org is that there's going to be an open-air WordCamp retreat. It's going to be held September 13th through the 15th in Bulgaria, Sinamoritz. Different format, workshops, networking events, and some relaxing and bonding opportunities. So it doesn't look like it'll be your standard WordCamp experience. This one's going to be on the beach as well, it says there. So it should be interesting. If you are there, I would love to see some photos. Maybe I'll just follow the site. That's one way to go. So check that out if you're going to be in Bulgaria, that area, September 14th and 15th. And lastly, well, almost second to last, my WordPress Essentials course is due to launch September 18th. Link in the show notes there as well. wpe.kitchensinkwp.com if you want to sign up for that. All right, also, last thing here is I have episode 300 coming up. Woohoo, very excited. So a friend of mine asked me, what am I going to do about it this time? The 100, the 200, the 300, I don't know what I'm going to do, who I may have on. Do you have any ideas? If you do, by all means, send them over to me, adam@kitchensinkwp.com. I guess I could reach out and see if Matt wants to come back on the show. That might be a thought. It's 10, 11 weeks away. It's kind of crazy. Wow, episode 300. Anyway, so that's that. Okay, moving on. Segment 1 in the news. A couple things here. Some of you may have woken up during last week and found hundreds of your sites were updated. 5.2.3 of WordPress Core is now available. It's a security maintenance fix. It fixed 29 things and enhancements. A number of security things as well. So that's why we got all those auto update announcements and alerts. I literally woke up at 4:30 in the morning and I must have had like 45, 50 notifications. I'm like, what happened? I'm like, 5.2.3. All right, right on. So also in the news, the WordPress Governance Project is looking for new leadership. Rachel Cherry, who's been on the show, and Morten Rand Hendrickson has also been on the show, announced they are stepping down. And the weekly meetings they're having are canceled until they find new leadership. So check that out. If you're interested in applying for that, there's a link in the show notes there as well. So, okay. And lastly, in the news, I added a new feature to the Kitchen Sink WP podcast. If you go to the website itself, and let me do that real quick, and you under the resources tab, there's now a new tab called Podcast Interviews. If you click on that, you will see all of the people I've interviewed over the past 5.5 years. So just as a shortcut to find people who have been interviewed on the show. From new WordCampers to people like Scott Wayne or Lisa Herr, Mark Benzicane, Troy Dean, Sarah Dunn, Matt Mullenweg's on there, Rachel Cherry. She was episode 182, et cetera, et cetera. So just made it. Some people were asking, do I have a list of all the people I've interviewed? And I didn't, so I created a page for that specifically. And by the way, it's in Beaver Builder. I just went in and added a tag of interviewed everybody. And then in the Beaver Builder module, for those who might want to know, I have it showing only the tags that show interview. So that was pretty simple to do. Okay, so there you have it. All right, moving on. Segment 2, the meat potatoes of this week's show. This week, I'm talking about site audits. Way back on episode 98, I did an episode about security audits. But this week, I want to talk about the overall site audits I produce for people that I do, because I meet people all the time, and I often offer to take a gander at their site for free. So that way there's no risk for anyone involved, except my time, but we'll get to that in a minute. And of course, I can only do so much for free. And a friend of mine asked me what I would do for that kind of thing. Like, what do I do? What do I give them? So I thought about it. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me talk about this on this episode, and I will tell you what I do exactly, and I'll talk more about that in a minute as well, like what gets delivered. So first and foremost, first of all, I need access. I need admin access. I need them to give that to me. I try really hard to have them create me a new admin user account. I have a little video that I've sent them in the past, or I've created in the past, so I can say if they don't know how to do that for some reason, they can create me a brand new user admin with my own password, because that way I don't have access to their keys to the kingdom, and they can always shut me out when they want, if they want, because I don't want that responsibility necessarily. So more often than not, though, they just send me their password, which in email, no less. Anyway, that's a whole separate story. So from there, I have a template that I've created, and I like checklists and templates, and I report and I check on 6 different areas specifically. And I'll just number these off, and I'll talk about them real quick. So number 1, version of WordPress. I want to see if they're running the latest version, and I report that. 5.1, 2.2, 5.2.3 is the latest, that kind of thing. And if there's any recommendations there, I do that as well. We'll talk about recommendations in a second. Number 2, active theme and child theme, if there's one there. I mentioned those, obviously. Third thing I look at, the number of plugins installed, how many are active and how many need updates. Number 4, how many users, admins and the such. Admins, editors, authors, subscribers, and or any other type of users they may have based on a third-party plugin. Many clients are surprised to hear that statistic, that they may have 82 users they had no idea about, and maybe 14 of them are admins, and the rest are subscribers. They didn't realize what's going on there. So the 5th thing I look at in my template is a backup strategy. I want to know if there's one. If there is, what's it doing? Does it work? And then number 6 are additional notes. And this is the area that I may check a handful of pages to see if they work. Mention the sample page site. The sample dash page is still active or not. A lot of people forget to turn that off. And a lot of people use that for contact us. They change the title of the page, but the slug isn't reset, and it just kind of gets messy and convoluted. I also check the current host and maybe give them a suggestion why they might want to move off of that hosting platform in question. So in each of those sections, I also have a recommendations actions for each of those things, to do something or do nothing, to update, remove things, remove plugins, admin, remove the themes, update the themes, obviously. So in every section, I will have a recommended action area right underneath it, okay? If the client has mentioned something they want me to specifically look at, I'll take a gander at that too. For example, I may run a GTmetrix report to check out load times, okay? Once that's done, I save my notes, and I add a cover sheet, and I send it off. Fairly simple stuff. Okay, so let me answer the common questions that I get from you, my listeners and friends that are concerned that I'm doing this, and how much time I may spend. Number 1 question, how much time do I spend on doing this? So typically it takes me 5 to 10 minutes on the site, 5 to 10 minutes in the dashboard once I'm logged in, and maybe 10 minutes to write up the notes, if that. So 30 minutes or less. That's my goal, 30 minutes or less, depending on the size and scale of the site. Now, of course, I could spend more time, but I limit it to 30 minutes. And I'm clear with those I offer this to. I'm providing something for free. It's not a full discovery, not full scope of a new project. So that's what they get, right? Okay. So number 2, does it work? I.e., do I get paid to work from this? My answer is yes. As a matter of fact, I do. I would normally get hourly work to knock out some of the items I've found on their site, or like the recommended actions I say to do these things. They said, do those for me. How much does it cost? And I'll charge them hourly. And some of those things very well may be like the updates of core, backup strategy, setting up a child theme. Well, that said, I recently stopped taking pure hourly work for sites that we didn't build over at Concierge WP. Rather, I want to get people over on a retainer plan. It's a flat rate for so many hours, so it's technically still hours, yes, but it's going to be a 2 to 3 month commitment because I want my team, myself, to get paid for the time it takes to research and figure stuff out for sites we didn't build. It's like opening up a can of worms sometimes. You just don't know. If I say it's going to take 2 to 4 hours, it could take 6 to 8. We just don't know exactly. So we need to get paid to get up to speed and not feel rushed, and or have the client push back on us and say, hey, you only said it would take 2 hours. You know what? You just never know these days, right? Happens all the time. So the third thing here, why not charge for this scope, for this little discovery thing I do? Well, I find it's a fine line. I'm trying to build trust and rapport with the person in question, and it costs them nothing. So I get to it when I can schedule it. I don't promise necessarily a specific start or stop date. I usually say, let me check my calendar for next week. It just works much better this way from my point of view and from my workflow, that they haven't paid a thing, so they're not, quote, entitled to anything. I haven't taken any money. So if the client wants more depth, a deeper audit, some SEO, security, or some discovery for a major project or a revamped site, then of course, we may have a discussion about charging for that time. And I've done that in the past. That way they, at the end of the day, have a full report with pricing, and they can take that somewhere else and shop it to somewhere else. But if I've done my job right, then they're going to come back to me because I built the trust and they know I know what I'm talking about. So there you have it. Basically, just the 6 sections: version of WordPress, active themes, number of plugins, how many users, backup strategy, and additional notes. Okay. What I've done for you, my listener, I have created a sample PDF report that I just recently put together for somebody, and I'm giving it to you for free. No email even needed to sign up for it. Just head over to kitchensinkwp.com / actually, what did I call it? I think it's actually Site Audit Sample. That's what the name of it is, if I'm not mistaken. Site Audit Sample, and let me make sure that is correct. Yes, it is actually correct. All one word. So kitchensinkwp.com / site audit sample, all lowercase, and you can see the PDF of what I sent over. It's not fancy or pretty. It's nothing spectacular. I guess I can make it nicer, but it's literally 1 to 3 pages. Well, it's a cover page, and then depends how many notes I may have. 1 page, sometimes 1.5 pages. That's about it. So it's short and simple and sweet. So that's that. Okay, hope that helps you kind of come up with some ideas about providing some services for free or low cost. You could charge for this, I suppose. I mean, absolutely. Anyway, do what you want on that. Okay, moving on. Segment 3, tip and tool of the week. This week's tool is called, it's a new site that I found online. I was on Twitter and I saw something. It's called dip.chat. And I got to tell you, I had this idea, or a similar idea, years ago. Didn't do anything with it. And I know the guy behind this. His name is Joe. I believe it's Joe. So if you go to dip.chat, it is a virtual co-working community for those who want more. I have no connection to them except that I'm actually part of it now. It lets you kind of co-work along other people from your home office or wherever you are via a video and or Slack. It's kind of interesting. Check it out. Dip.chat. The guy who's running it is, I can't think of his name. It is Joe. JavaScript Joe, that's who it is. I met him by chance at a coffee shop downtown Raleigh, and it turns out that we have a mutual friend in Arizona where he's from. He was out on vacation, kind of a somewhat weird story, but check that out. I just got onto the Slack channel yesterday, and it's pretty cool so far. So check that out, dip.chat. Okay, that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. And before I do, I want to thank everyone from last week for the well wishes about my 3 years running the agency. I really do appreciate that, for reaching out. It was awesome. And I want to say special thanks to Mark. He sent me a book via Apple Books, which is really nice. I'm going to start reading that next week. So thank you to everyone who's been very supportive of my 3-year journey here. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up. If you have any questions, go ahead, send it in. Adam@kitchensinkwp.com is my email, or use that SpeakPipe function on the website. You become a Patreon, which would be fantastic. kitchensinkwp.com / Patreon. You can also sponsor the show. There's a form on the website. Thanks so much for listening. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right, see you next week. Bye-bye.